doing a pop-up class, and we're gonna wait for some people to roll in. This is a little bit that only people who rewatch this video get to see, so it's like our secret little moment that nobody else gets to exist in. So yeah, I'm gonna wait for some people to roll in, and then we're gonna jump right into this pop-up class. And this one is all about making a ginger root tincture. Now, this is fantastic because no matter where you're watching from, odds are good you can probably go buy fresh ginger, and you can most certainly order it online. Okay, so people overcomplicate tinctures in general. It's really simple, especially if you're working with fresh plant matter like this big beautiful ginger root, and 100 proof vodka, which is 50% water, 50% alcohol. If you can't get 100 proof in your state, you can use 80 proof. I'll talk more about that later. So this is super simple. You're going to take your fresh ginger. Now, some people will want to peel this, and I'll show you a trick for that later if you decide to. I like to have the skin intact because there are a lot of herbal properties that reside within the skin too. But what I will do is go ahead and trim off kind of all of the old pieces just to kind of, I don't know, bring down that oxidation factor a little bit. So I'm just gonna trim off the dried tips. And there's nothing wrong with this if you're like cooking with them or such. I just kind of always trim them off. And it's where they've broken it off from other rhizomes, right? So I'm just kind of trimming that off. See how I took the edges off? Super easy, I promise. And then I'm just gonna show you how hard it is, so with sarcasm, to make a ginger root tincture. So I'm gonna do a pint jar. You can do a quart, you can do a half gallon, you can do a half pint. Whatever you do, make sure that you have enough ginger to fill the jar all the way up. You don't want to use too big of a jar. You don't want to use something that you can't fill up all the way, because then you'll end up with oxidation. So basically, let me get my hands to work. I'm just going to set my little jar right there. And you're going to watch me chop this up. You don't need to pulverize it. You don't need to do anything special. Just give it a good chop. You'll give yourself a little bit more surface space when you're doing that, right? So it doesn't have to work to get through the tough cellular membrane of that ginger root skin, and can just go straight to doing its extraction job. And so I'm just giving a chop. Now, you can scrub these when you buy them if you want to from the store. That's fine, especially if you break it apart and see little bits of dirt in there. But people always ask me about washing plants, especially like wild ones. And nature in itself isn't dirty. And you got to remember, you're pouring like something that sterilizes something over top of it, right? You're pouring alcohol over this. So anything that's in there that you might be skeezed out by is going to be disinfected. So it doesn't really matter. It's going to be disinfected better than just running it under water, right? Okay, so I got a fair amount of ginger chopped up. I'm going to take my jar. Here's the hard part. Put the ginger in your jar. I might have chopped too much. That's okay. You can always cook with it. Use it for tea, whatever. Just like that. I'm going to fill it all the way as I can. And now, let's make a tincture. Grab your vodka. Now, the reason that I use 100 proof vodka is because it's already 50% water and it's already 50% alcohol. I'm not having to do any complicated math at the end of it. I'm not having to worry about sourcing like dangerously high proof alcohol. When people use grain alcohol doesn't mean it's been made with grain, although it can be. You can tell it's like one I get pretty often. Grain alcohol means it's high proof, usually 190% alcohol. There's no water left in the alcohol. And then what happens when you use alcohol with any plant matter, regardless if it's fresh or not, you get absolutely zero of the water-soluble properties. And you end up with a really unbalanced tincture. And I swear to God, when people have bad reactions to a tincture, 90% of the time it's because they use dried plant matter and high proof alcohol. So this is already diluted. This means that after you dump your alcohol over the top and you fill it up pretty much all the way, as much as you can, because that's going to prevent oxidation, and that brings you back to why it is so important to use a jar that you can fill up all the way to the top, right? Because if you had a big jar here and you only had enough ginger to cover like the quarter bottom of it, and then you put the alcohol over top, it is going to cause oxidation. Now, a visual spatial example of oxidation is what happens when you take a bite of an apple and you sit it on the counter for a few hours. You come back and it looks all brown, right? Basically, the cellular structure of that plant has been exposed to oxygen, and it creates oxidation. And this oxidation, while it won't hurt us or kill us, it can make for a far less potent tincture that doesn't hold on to its herbal properties for as long. So fill it up all the way to the top. Put your lid on. My dysgraphia and lids. I'm gonna get it. I'm not gonna get it. Let me try this other one. It's a real ass thing that people don't know about. My brain and my hands don't communicate. Like, for as much information I can give you, if I try to write something for you physically, you'll be like, did a first grader write this? Anyhow, put your cap on and then store this in a cool, dark place for 6 to 8 weeks. You can do it 4 if you really want to, but after that, what you're going to do is you're going to strain out your ginger, and the alcohol has now extracted the herbal properties we're after, and you're going to use it like any other tincture. Now, everyone is always going to come at me for the dose. I really recommend checking out my Let's Talk All About Tinctures video, but these aren't like things that you get from your doctor. There's not a specific amount for a specific height and weight and gender and all that kind of stuff. Usually I tell people to start with like 1 to 3 drops and work your way up to there. Most people land around the 8 to 15 mark, but listen to your body. Somebody might only want to use 2 or 3 drops, but the other one might need 10 or 15 drops, right? Okay, so all that aside, why? Why do we want to make a ginger tincture? Now, a lot of you are probably very familiar with ginger, and you're like, oh, she's really good for nausea and upset stomach. Yes, she is really, really awesome for that, but she's really, like, tragically, like, it hurts my heart, overlooked for everything else she has the capacity to do. Did you know that ginger is fantastic for kidney health, bladder infections, clearing uric acid? Like, if you are prone to gout, or like you can't eat a lot of red meat, or you just kind of constantly have this uric acid buildup, she's really fantastic for helping your body get rid of that uric acid. She can attack bladder infections, kidney infections. She's really amazing for that. She is a powerful anti-inflammatory that makes her good for stomach pain, chronic pain, all kinds of issues. Anything anti-inflammatory, you name it, ginger can do it. Now, how about the fact that she supports hormone health? That one was crazy overlooked. She has the capacity to help you deal with things like estrogen dominance, testosterone dominance. And what's really interesting I find about ginger is that she doesn't really attack any one particular hormone. I find her more of a modulator. If you have too much estrogen, which is highly likely in a world that's full of phytoestrogens where people are eating, like, you know, soy lectins and everything, she's really fantastic at being like, whoa, let's help you piss out, because that's what happens. Some of this estrogen or shit it out, one or the other. That's the way your hormones leave your body. But if you're like really high in testosterone, she's like, whoa, let's slow the testosterone down. But if you're really low in testosterone, she helps get rid of that excess estrogen, which then increases your testosterone level, right? Because the way hormones work is that, like, if one is too high, the others are too repressed, right? So if you have high estrogen, you'll have really low testosterone, even as a woman, right? And that's really overlooked for women. But so basically, if you can lower that high estrogen, you can fix your testosterone. But if your testosterone is too high, get it? So she's a really awesome modulator. Now, of course, she's my #1 pick for like nausea, car sickness, anything like that, indigestion. But also, how about your entire circulatory system? She's really fantastic if you're dealing with high blood pressure, if you're dealing with like really poor vein circulation, if your feet and your hands are always cold. Oh, and by the way, she also supports thyroid function. Whether it's too high or too low, it's definitely something to look into. Oh, I'm going to keep going because she's also really fantastic for blood sugar issues. So if you've got too high of insulin, too high of blood sugar, if you're dealing with type 2 diabetes, she's pretty fantastic at supporting you through that, pre-diabetic, anything like that. But also, if you have something like hypoglycemia, cool, she's going to help stabilize you and help prevent drops. Ginger is really, really, really overlooked, while at the same time everybody knows about her. Isn't that so funny? And how easy is ginger to access? And how easy was that to make? I literally just chopped up ginger, threw it in a jar, and poured some vodka over top. I mean, this was like, I don't know, $3 worth of ginger. And if you buy one of these big bottles of vodka, no, you don't need to buy the super expensive kind. Organic vodka does not matter. It's greenwashing. All that comes out of the distillation process is pure alcohol. Nothing else can pass through, because those are proteins. When you think about chemicals or gluten or anything like that, can't pass through because they're protein in nature, and proteins can't vaporize. So buy yourself some cheap ass vodka, and you can make a lot of tinctures with one bottle, right? This was maybe $14, $15 bottle of vodka, and this jar, if you bought like all of this in tincture form on your own, you'd probably spend $80, $90 on each little bottle, right? But yeah, that was so easy to do, and you are so capable and smart enough to do this that it's like shocking. It is. So this will seem really random because you're watching this flowy video, but this is actually a secret part that only people on YouTube, you, the person who's watching, get to see, because I totally spaced. I like hopped off the live Instagram, the professional that I am, before I showed you how to do a couple important things. I mean, it's not the end of the world. The people on Instagram will get the gist of it. But one important thing is to, let's label our tinctures so we don't forget what it is, because some of us are forgetful, right? And now, these are my batch labels that you guys are always asking me about. You can't really use them individually, like on their own, without the records that go with them. But I do sell that. I made a little ebook to get you started on record keeping if you're selling things. If you're not selling things, it's not the end of the world. But regardless, I want you to be labeling this so you know what it is. So I'm gonna write, you know, ginger root tincture, and I'm gonna check tincture, and I've got the date on it and everything on there. Now, I'm going to put this in my jar so I don't forget it. Okay? Now, again, I'm going to set this in a cool, dark place for 6 to 8 weeks. Some people you can use it as soon as 4. If I was going to use it around 4 weeks, I would pull off a little with like a little like plastic syringe or a spoon or something like that, instead of straining the whole thing. But you can start using it at 4 weeks. And then you're just going to strain it and use it like I talked to in the first live video. And then, the next thing I was going to show you, if you do genuinely want to take the skin off of this, if you want to peel it, you don't have to, but if you want to, I understand that. I want you to use a spoon. A spoon, not a vegetable peeler, will work so much easier. Watch. I'm just going to start scraping. I don't know if I can do it backwards. I'm just going to scrape down the way, and it comes off really easy, but the reason that a spoon is so awesome for peeling ginger is because you can get into the nooks and crannies that you wouldn't be able to do with a vegetable peeler. Even if you break these apart, the thing about a vegetable peeler is it's used to like a carrot or a potato or a beet, maybe something that is flat. Well, ginger doesn't really roll that way. She's all over the place, right? And so you can kind of peel with it, but you end up losing most of the ginger, and you can't really get all the little pieces. But with a spoon, you can really just strip all that off without too much effort, and you can get into the little pieces, like in that little armpit there. Look at that. I just peeled inside of there. So those were the tips that I wanted to show you and had forgotten in my excitement of telling you how amazing ginger is. So continue on with the video. You are definitely smart enough to do this, even if you don't believe that. So if you like watching my random pop-up videos, if you like what I'm up to, if you like watching me on YouTube or Instagram or any of those places, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and share. All these things really help other people learn that they are smart enough to do this too, because it helps me get pushed into the algorithm. Now, if you want to support my general existence so I can buy the cheap vodka and I can buy the ginger roots to show you what I'm up to, consider following the link in my bio or in the description of this video, depending on where you're watching. I'm calling something home from my shop. It's literally the only way I support myself. So it goes a long way. Now, again, I can't reiterate how important it is for you to understand that you are smart enough to do this. I mean, it really frustrates me when I have people come to me. I'm not frustrated at the people, but the concept that they're like, oh, I never thought I could do this. I thought I had to pay thousands of dollars for courses. I don't have this money. I feel intimidated by it. And all of that is a symptom of people overcomplicating things when they teach you. And sometimes when people overcomplicate things, it's a symptom of them not really necessarily understanding what they're doing as a whole, so much as following like the steps of what somebody showed them. So there's not even any hate in that. It's just that maybe they don't feel that they're smart enough to do this simply, but they are, and you are. And so, you know, help me let people know that they are also smart enough. Okay, so oh, and if you're watching this on Instagram, I will upload it to YouTube. And if you're watching this on YouTube, it's on Instagram. But either platform you're watching on, I really suggest coming and finding me on the opposite. Because I share all kinds of helpful information that helps you do all the same stuff that I do. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time, folks. Bye.